Hello, I'm Simona Stankowska, Head of Global PR at EXANTE. I'm here today with Fiona Hathorn, CEO of Women on Boards UK. Good morning, Fiona.
Good morning, delighted to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to be talking today about your career, women on boards, and how women can better manage their finances. Is it important for a woman to think about her finances as well as her career?
Well, the two go hand in hand, absolutely, because how much you earn depends, how much you've got left at the end of the week will affect how much you can invest or put by for a rainy day. So it's really, really important. So actively managing your career and owning it, knowing who you are, where you want to get to and what you might need to do to get there is really, really important. And the key thing is it's not a once and done thing. It's something that you should be constantly looking around, looking at your options, because every decision you make, whether it's to stay in that chair, to move departments, to move companies, affects the ability for you to earn. Understanding your finances, realising where you want to go, what you might need to do. And if you take a career break, you might be able to invest in yourself to learn something new, to create that further optionality, to grow the possibility of you being independent later on. Because I think being independent and knowing how your family unit, a lot of people historically have turned off and said, well, okay, I'm not the main breadwinner now, or I'm not earning for this period of time, I won't worry about the finances. And I would caution anybody to do that. I think knowing your finances, and equality means equality of all things, equality in a relationship, but also equality of money. I only knew a working mother, so I didn't know anything else. But I also had a father who believed in equality, and he believed that I could do anything and my brother could do anything. And it's only now, because I've been running Women on Boards and I'm aware about diversity and biases. You know, we all have biases. I have biases, you have biases. And men and women often have the same biases, that I've looked in a lens as to what made me different. And actually, it's not just my father, but it's my father's mother. Because my father was brought up in Burslem, Stoke-on-Trent, in a very deprived mining and pottery town, one of the first boys to go to university, supported by a teacher who recognised that he was different. But his mother was the main breadwinner. Now, it was only the corner shop at the end of the road, but he had a sense of powerful women who managed their own money. So he married somebody who was my mother, and my mother, in her family story was very, very different, and she didn't expect to work once she had children. And my father was astounded when, she had children, that she didn't want to work, because it hadn't occurred to him in his upbringing. So that's why I think things are a little bit different. So to support my mother going back to work, he had to boost her own confidence. And we can talk about what made her underconfident at the time. And then he made sure that she wasn't worried about childcare. And he juggled, which meant my father was in the RAF. And we were stationed at Biggin Hill when I was really young, so 3 to 6. He would take me to the office and, put his hat on me, sit in the corner. So I sucked up all sorts of HR meetings, business meetings, finance meetings. So to me, that was operation normal. My father realised by the time I got to secondary school that I had a sense that I wasn't as good as everyone else, and he was just not going to have this. He absolutely wasn't. And so he sat me down, actually with a friend of mine, Anne, who was in the remedial group like me, which was really upsetting for me. And I was very good at maths. And he kept saying to me, you're a beacon of light. You'll be going to university. There's no way I thought I was going to university. And he said, no, you will. And you will be a captain of industry. Now, at the time, honestly, I didn't believe any of it. But he said, okay, what's the issue here? And I talked about him having to read out loud. So he went to see my teachers and said, you will not ask my daughter to read out loud until you've told her the night before what she will be reading. And he taught me to maximise my skill set. So really use my mathematical and financial knowledge, and then my presentational skills. And then you merge the two, and then you start to get your confident self back. But certainly if you're a minority going into an environment, it can be a little bit more stressful. So dealing with stress levels is important. And I often talk and coach and mentor and support women and men in the companies that we work with. And you will tend to find that most organisations have presentational skills courses, but they tend to pick out who they send on them. Okay. So if you're naturally good, you get coached even more. So you get better and better. So I think one of the things that I would say to people is find out what support is available in your company. And if there isn't support, invest in yourself. You know, we all have choice. Yeah. I know money's tight, but we can talk about engagement and how women and certain individuals are brought up. Women in general feel bad about investing in themselves. Men in general don't feel bad about investing in themselves. We need to look at why that is. But I always say invest in yourself, because a small amount of money can have an enormous difference on your career options and capability.
But does that again go back to childhood, that as females we're told what we can achieve? There are constraints, maybe. We're compared to our male equivalents, and,
it's absolutely we're restricted everywhere. You know, I work with very large organisation, particularly in the City of London, and we can't blame the organisations for everything. There's a fantastic BBC documentary where they studied children at the age of 4, asking them at play school, you know, what they wanted to do, and they were very gender neutral in their careers. You ask the children at 6 and they've changed their view. Why is that? Is it the school environment? Is it the home environment? Is it what we're watching on television? And whether it's investing in particular types of films, TV. We know Disney is looking at the role models that they're creating, with wanting to be a princess and a prince and all that sort of stuff. And I particularly don't like the word woke, because people talk about that's woke, but actually what do they mean by that statement? Is that their cop-out to say I don't like it, I don't like change? Because what you're reading and what you're sucking in has a huge impact, and that's why I now understand the importance of my family and the fact that I didn't have any of these gender norms.
However, as you said, your dad worked for the RAF, so he had no financial background. So what influenced you to get into finance?
Money was talked at home all of the time in my house. So when my dad left the RAF, money was tight. They had to buy a house. You know, they'd had housing provided for them in the RAF. He was changing career, and it was stressful. So, you know, I knew what the household bills were. I knew everything about the sort of financial balance sheet of our house. And so I did a degree in business, specialising in finance. And I did it because I perceived, and I think this was a little bit of my lack of confidence coming through because of my dyslexia, that I needed a professional services qualification, and I thought accountancy was it. And everyone was saying to me, you're a natural marketeer, you're in sales, you're a presenter, are you sure? But I was determined to do this. And somebody asked me why, and I said, I want to join the City of London. And that's because I'd seen people read the FT. And I was really interested in the colour of this paper. And some of the chaps and the men that I was at college with, and again, this was a gender thing, they had their own little share portfolios, or they picked stocks, or they were very entitled, a few of them, and they were given some money by their parents. And I was asking them what they were doing at the back with all these sheets of numbers in the back of the FT. And I just became intrigued by it. So I decided I wanted to join the City. I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. And I remember being at school and being taken into London. I lived in Leicestershire at the time, and to see the stock exchange when it was still a trading platform. I was absolutely hooked. I thought, this is so exciting. So even when I joined PwC as a trainee accountant, I was always talking to people at parties or anybody in the city saying, tell me more, tell me more. And then, you know, luck would have it, I met somebody who told me that Hill Samuel Asset Management were looking for graduate trainees, and they were desperate. They were going to start their grad programme in September, but they were desperate for somebody to start early, and I just called them up and told them I was ready.
Amazing.
And then I rang up. I thought, gosh, I don't really know what a fund asset manager does. So I rang up somebody I'd worked with at PwC who was working at Chemical Bank, which is now, I think it's Morgan Stanley, changed the name to Morgan Stanley. And I said, you know, I've got this interview next week. And he said, well, come over the night before and I'll explain investment banking, I'll explain stockbroking, and I'll explain fund management. And that's all I needed. I just needed a little bit to say that made me then believe that I knew what I was doing.
Amazing.
I'm not sure I did.